sorry, sir. Are you sick? Everybody.
Here's the General Electric X-181 radio. And this has just come out of a long period of service as an amplifier for Organist 1982's computer. We got Organist 1982's stereo receiver hooked up. It had been in storage for a while. We finally got it hooked up, so we're able to retire the radio from that service. But I'm going to get it set up here for use as an actual radio. But as long as we had it hooked up, we kind of had to put up with some bad sound quality because I just never got around to replacing this speaker. And the speaker has got, if you look here, you see it's delaminated from the outside of the basket, and it's got some tears in it too. So I know that some people, and it's got some stuff wedged in there, I think, to try to help combat noise. Whenever possible, and I'm gonna salvage these terminals off of this before I toss it out. Wherever possible, I like to just replace speakers rather than recone. Some cases with very rare speakers, it probably would be good to have them recone, but usually I've got one that can replace it. And I found one in some speakers I got at an auction where the cabinets are falling apart. They were falling apart particle board. But here's, looks like, is this maybe an 8-inch speaker? And it seems to sound really good.
Military or whatever, to get down to the basics, down to spiritual business. And this character you play, Felix Bush, he work into that measure that government probably shouldn't even be involved with. And as he said, that's really...
I dream them.
And this is a really good heavy-duty receiver with an RF stage, so it can pick up some music stations here in Midland.
His heels were on that, and the funny thing was, he basically started to fall backwards.
Now, it probably doesn't have much response above 8 kilohertz or so, but since this is just an AM radio, it probably could benefit from a tweeter, but this encompasses most of the frequencies available on AM radio. It seems to sound pretty good to me, so I may not even need to try and get an external tweeter on it. It's certainly a lot better than it was. The only problem maybe is getting the radio chassis to clear this. So I have to see if the radio chassis will fit back in there.
And a whistle and a call against Nanette Christich.
Here's the tone control.
It's about $140. The Kindle, the Wi-Fi holds about $3,500.
Okay.
So she'll be fine. Okay.
All right.
She'll be fine. While you're at it, buy her a nice case. Okay.
Okay.
And then if you go to my website, commando.com/.
Let's just finally try it with the external input. I've got that hooked up to the CD player. And the CD produces a little bit more bass, I think, than this unit can handle. Let's see, we're on the end. But it's not too bad for an old radio.
How do you document real life when real life's getting more like fiction each day? Headlines, spread lines blow my mind, and now this deadline, eviction or pay.
What I might like to try and do sometime is see if I can find a tweeter that can mount coaxially in there, because this should be able to produce some more highs, but just owing to the limitations of the radio cabinet, right now. I'm not quite getting all of it. But as far as AM radio reception, seems to sound pretty decent for that purpose. So I'll just clean the controls on this again and I'll put it back together. Well, I had to go to plan B on the speaker. The 8-inch speaker for some reason was a little bit deeper than the old speaker. So I had to use this 4x6 speaker I got from an XL-100 color TV, or maybe a 5x7. It's not as big of a speaker, but it really seems to sound good. It's got a whizzer cone in it, and I soldered on the terminals from the old speaker on there so I could hook up the speaker leads. Also, I needed to put a bolt on there to hold the speaker terminal board on because the rivet broke off. But I found another mystery that had plagued this radio when Organist 1982 was using it, and that is intermittent connection in the negative feedback circuit. When we'd use it with the computer, we'd notice that sometimes it would get louder and sometimes it would get softer. And right here, there's a connection in the negative feedback circuit. It's live, so I can't touch it, but right in there, there's a connection point that had been cut. And when the two connecting points got loose, we got more gain. Let me demonstrate for you. I was using a pencil, or a colored pencil, to intermittently open and close the circuit. So let me find that and I can show you. See, right here, this lead had been cut, and when these two terminals get open, there's no negative feedback. There's more gain, but it's more of the sound isn't as good. It sounds more just like a cheap AM radio of a type that wouldn't have any negative feedback. Now if I restore the connection by pressing the pencil up, the negative feedback is engaged, and you hear it's not as loud, but when I turn it up, it sounds a lot better. Just like a hi-fi amplifier using negative feedback. So I'm going to restore the feedback connection here. I'm going to resolder this. Maybe whoever had this before maybe decided they wanted more gain and could live with the worst sound quality, so they removed the negative feedback circuit. But it sounds so much better with it in. I really want to restore it. But it's like we'd lift up on the speaker leads and we'd find that it would get louder, and it was because of that connection. So I'm glad I found that out. And I tried fitting the chassis in here, and it does fit in good. So I'm going to repair that, and we should be able to call this project done. Well, this doesn't look as good as the original, but it sounds a whole heck of a lot better. Now, here's the completed radio.
Boston. Rondo on the attack. Open shot, right elbow. Shot it short, but Kendrick Perkins, the offensive.
Eternal Father, I offer you the body and blood, soul and divinity of your dearly beloved Son, our Lord Jesus Christ. He has died for our sins and rose of the world.
Now get a quick and simple flu shot at select Rite Aid pharmacies. It's the best way to steer clear of and stay flu shot.
The shadow of the cross. You're beautiful. You're beautiful.
Covering and reporting West Texas. If you want to know what's going on inside the basin. It's mandatory listening. The Permian Basin's first radio station. News Talk 550 KCRS.
What's your thoughts today on the state's proposal to cut off all funds for Odessa College, now and in the future? Contact House Appropriations Chairman Jim Pitts at 512-463-0556.
The only problem I've noticed is on some tone control positions there's an oscillation.
In the Permian
And I'm not sure if that's due to the negative feedback circuit that was put on somehow. Sometime I'll have to look into that, but at certain positions it works just fine and it sounds good. So I'm not going to mess with that right now. Let's try shortwave.
At the tone, 21 hours, 7 minutes, coordinated universal time.
We sometimes wonder, how come this person or that person just doesn't understand? We've learned that, and when I get all done,
got married last spring.
So there's the GE radio. I think I really managed to improve the performance on it.